Hey everyone, this is Gabby,
And Karim.
and you're listening to the Making of an Incredible MD podcast by Halad to Health.
Tune in each week to hear us talk about the journey of getting into med school.
From GAMSAT to medical interviews, get the insider scoop from med students who have done it all before. So stay tuned and get ready to get med ready.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Making of an Incredible MD. Today we'll be doing the MMI mini-series. Before we get started, I'd like to do an acknowledgement of countries. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands on which I am recording today. For me personally, that is the Wurundjeri people, and I'd like to pay my respects to their elders past, present, and emerging, as well as any First Nations people who might be listening to this podcast today. In terms of the station type today, it's an ethics station. The difficulty is about medium. It's a 1 minute reading time and 1 minute per question. The student today is Andrew and the tutor is Gianni. And the station is as follows. You are an employee at a child care centre and you are looking after children. A colleague comes over and begins talking to you and you turn your back on the children. While your back is turned, a child running in the playground falls and breaks their arm. Someone has been fired for a similar situation in the past. Question 1 is, what would you do?
Okay, so I think the crux of this scenario is sort of like a duty of care scenario, and it's trying to influence me through the potential or possibility that I might be fired. So I think in answering the question, what I would do it in a 3-step process. Firstly, I would have to address the safety of the child, and that's my first priority here, and that's my duty of care. Secondly, I'd have to make sure that the rest of the children are safe while this is happening. And thirdly, I'd go through the proper frameworks or systems that are in place that exist at a child daycare center. So firstly, in addressing the child, you'd apply basic first aid principles, run over to the child, etc. Apply basic first aid principles and make sure that the child is, safe from further harm and has been stabilised. Based off the information I've been provided with, they've got a broken arm, so I would probably have to call an ambulance just to make sure that they're, taken care of further down the track. And then after that ambulance has been called, make sure that the child's as comfortable as possible. I'd perhaps organise another daycare centre employee to ring the child's mother or father or parent guardian, whoever's available, so that we can get them involved as well and make sure that they know that their child is going to hospital, because they'd probably want to know. So firstly, address the child's safety and make sure that they're being taken care of. Secondly, obviously the rest of the children, they might be a little bit, hysterical or scared or anything like that once they see, their friend or their peer in trouble. So whilst I'm sort of dealing with the safety of the child, I'd also make sure that whoever's available to me, whether that's other staff or, student teachers, whatever, we're making sure that the rest of the children are safe, and carrying on about whether it sounds like it is at lunchtime or something. So, carrying on about their lunchtime and not really getting involved or worrying about the situation, because the last thing I want is for, the entire childcare centre to be, in mayhem. So, and that's following up with my duty of care too. So, secondly, ensuring that the rest of the children are safe and continuing on. And then thirdly, as any employment centre or any even childcare especially, we obviously have a duty of care towards the children, and there's frameworks in place. Once an incident occurs, incident reports, reporting to higher up people in a higher up position. So I would go through the proper frameworks in that. So whether it is writing down an incident report or getting witnesses involved, like the other colleague that you were talking to perhaps, and going through the proper framework that's in place there. Obviously, the situation is trying to influence me from a perspective of not wanting to get fired, and being scared. But at the end of the day, you have a duty of care and you need to fulfill that.
And so, if a colleague came out to you from the boss's office and told you that they'd covered for you in this situation, what would you do?
Um, it's a nice thing to do, but ultimately, I don't think it's the right thing to do. That might conflict with my third point in terms of me reporting. Putting in incident reports, etc., and it's not going to look good for either of us. Furthermore, it's putting the other colleague at unnecessary harm in terms of if they do get fired. Like I said, it's conflicting with my previous reports. So, it's nice of them to do. It's a nice gesture. I would say, you know, perhaps even thank you for thinking of me in that situation, but I'd prefer it if you didn't do that. And I'd go through reasons why, have a chat with them, and ask them to, not to do that because, I've done the wrong thing here and I need to own up to it. So, yeah. And whether I need to take that conversation privately and do that in a one-on-one situation, I'm happy to do that.
And if the manager asks you if it's because there aren't enough staff on deck, what do you suggest?
If the manager said it's because there's not enough staff on desk. I would say, I'd talk to the manager and I'd probably have a conversation with them as to why they think that. I'd brainstorm with them, come to some sort of, process of inquiry as to why they think that. Okay, I don't know if I think that. I'm not sure from the situation as to how many staff we do have on.
Yeah, although we've run out of time now, just for your own learning, we'll keep going through the remainder of the questions. And so just continuing on with that response for if the manager asks you if there weren't enough staff on deck, what do you think of this?
Thanks, Gianni. I would, like I said, have a process of inquiry with them and talk to them about that as to why they think that. Ultimately, from the situation or from the scenario that I've gathered, it wasn't because we had enough or not enough staff. It was because I physically turned my back whilst I'm talking to another staff member. So it seems like we have enough staff there based off the situation or based off the scenario. But ultimately, I think having a process of inquiry with the manager and talking about why they think that and then coming to some sort of resolution from there.
And what are the implications of your actions in this situation?
The number one implication is obviously the child, getting hurt as a result. And again, it's not really because of as a result of me not looking at them. Like me having visual observation of them doesn't mean that they're going to break or not break their arm. But I guess within the duty of care, you should be having eyes on the kids at all times. And I'm not sure of the contract or the actual stuff in written with the child daycare center, but I'm assuming that you'd have some sort of duty of care, and within that duty of care would be to have eyes on the kids. So there's that. The second implication is implications within like the wider staff community. Like, will they be scared as well that I'm going to get fired, and will that have implications on how they react to their workplace environment? Will they be constantly looking at the kids now and not wanting to have chats and stuff like that because of what's happened today? So that trickle on effect. And then thirdly, obviously within the kids as well, if word gets around that, they broke their arm and I was at fault for that, then, there could be a conversation had amongst the kids and some rumors spread there.
And if it had been an adult who broke their arm, for example, in a nursing home, would the situation be different?
I don't think it would be different at all. I'd still probably take the same 3 steps. Addressing the person in concerns safety initially. Secondly, addressing everyone else's safety, and then thirdly, going through those proper frameworks. Because like a child daycare center, I'm sure a nursing home would have frameworks in place in terms of reporting or incident reports, etc. And I'd use the same exact steps.
Okay, really good. Thank you so much for your response. And that concludes our interview.
Thanks, Gianni.
Okay, so Andy, I really liked your response, and overall, I think it was a really great interview. Mm-hmm. You had very good structure to your answers, and you came across very genuine, and your priority was always not, say, you losing your job or what people thought of you, but the child safety, which I think is great and something that we definitely look into in medical professionals. For your response for for the first question, I think highlighting that duty of care, I think that was really great, and how you broke it up into 3 steps. And I think this was really good. The only thing is you did run a bit over time here, and I think this question definitely took up the majority of the time, but it's something that you get better with practice as well. So I don't think you should feel too bad with. And really, like as well here, you first of all highlighted that child safety and following the protocol of the workplace, which I think as well is something that's really important. We don't expect you to know like the protocol at every single workplace, but the fact that you're identifying that safety is first, making sure other children are saved, and contacting your supervisor and going through those proper frameworks. I think you did an excellent response, just a little bit long for that first one.
Yeah, I should have cut it down for sure.
And I think as well, when for the second question, is like someone coming out of the office and saying that they've covered for you, your immediate response was not that, okay, how do I deal with this now? Can we get out of it? But no, this is not right. It's putting the other colleague as well at unnecessary harm, which I like that you noted that they could also get in trouble for them lying. And you're like as well in my response that I had, like as my ideal response, thanking them as well, but saying, no, I'm going to say that like what actually happened was kind of right up there. And I really liked how you said like you could do it in a private situation, one-on-one. Not everyone needs to know, which I think also is really great.
Cool, thank you.
Third, and so I liked how your first response was like, oh yeah, we can't blame the staff. Like it was more so, let's have a look and see why did you come to this conclusion that it was because of lack of staff, and working out systematically why they came to that and what else could be contributing. Because I think here the key is you can't like it's very, very much trying to get you to blame a certain aspect and not put the blame on yourself. But in this situation, it's not necessarily that.
That's right.
It could contribute, but it's not all of it. So I think that was a really good response there. And working with your supervisor too, I think highlighting that team-based approach is really great. And so in the next one as well, so forth, this is when we kind of ran over time. So I think you were trying to be a bit faster as well.
Yeah.
But good how first thing that came to your mind was child safety as the implication for your actions. And as well, I think it was really great that you focused on like that duty of care as well. And your other things that you took into consideration was like the other staff, them being afraid of being fired too, and kids. So it's good because it's trying to get you to think about other things, not the immediate. Yeah. And I think this was great, but there were probably a couple other things that maybe would have been good to mention, like say how if word got out about this, so not only are the kids maybe spread rumors, but their parents might have a negative view of the childcare centre and your supervisor, and potentially like other centres and like, you know, the higher ups as well. There's a lot of roll-on effects. And as well, this is something that I don't think everyone would get, but there's this a second victim ideology. It's something that we talk about in medicine a little bit, where the moral harm on you for making a mistake also contributes in a situation. And so even if you don't directly do something wrong yourself, you may feel the guilt being on you for this child breaking his arm.
Yeah, myself as a stakeholder too,
Yeah, so I think that could as well be a good thing to mention. And so for the last one, if it was in a nursing home, I think you approach this really well. I don't think it would be different at all either. And because really, if you were working in a nursing home, your job is essentially the same. You're there to take care of the patrons like you are in a childcare centre, and you've got a responsibility for supervision and making sure the environment is safe. And so I think you responded to that really well. I guess the main things are like timing. But besides that, I think you had really good ideas and just trying to, I guess, hit those points in less amount of time, and also being a bit more proportional, because I think you spent a long time on the first question.
Agreed.
And the others slightly suffered.
Sure.
Thank you for listening to the Making of an Incredible MD podcast by Allied to Health. Please like, share and subscribe to help spread the word about our podcast. And we'd love to hear your feedback. So send us an email or message on Facebook. All of our links are in the show notes. Thanks. We'll see you next time.